Okay. You all set?
So this is Sarah Klinowski. She's our student assistance personnel. We said program of personnel.
Okay.
And she's here to talk about, a professional, and she's here to talk about prevention.
And I want to ask if you can save questions for the end, so we'll
Yep.
have time. And do you have, this is the PowerPoint, so you can write on that. Does anyone want Post-its or something to write questions?
Perfect.
No, and I love questions, but I think we'll take them at the end, so I know I can show you everything. So this is my 8th year at the school, which has been really nice. So I'll show you a bit, kind of a flavor. You can go ahead, of prevention programs, and so you have to kind of keep pressing. So this is the things that we'll cover tonight. So a lot of those things are typical in other schools, and some are unique to Williston. And I'm .6, and this is some of the responsibilities in our job. So I am someone who meets with anyone. It's a broad brush program, and that's one of the key things of prevention. If I only met with kids who were doing drugs and alcohol, then I walk down the hall and talk to that kid, and everyone in the school thinks that kid. And really, I work with kids individually in groups who might be concerned about someone. They might want information. They might be working on leadership programs with me. They might want to help a parent quit smoking. So it's a whole range in that broad brush. Or they might be adjusting to school, adjusting to divorce. I get a lot of referrals also from the Direction Center from the school counselors. So it's really important that I don't meet with one type of kid, because then I can't meet with anyone. It becomes a stigma. And so I'm going to focus on prevention, but I also do assessment and referral. And you've seen me in some of that action too, actually. So sometimes it's assessment and referral. So it is not long-term treatment of drug and alcohol issues. I guess that's why the assessment and referral. We're not allowed to, although I do have some licenses where I could provide counseling. That's not my role, is to do long-term, counseling work. It's to assess, get other people involved, and maybe then do check-ins with kids. And so it's addressing someone's own use or concern about someone else. These are other parts of my job that I'll get more specific with. But I'll tell you more about the 2 leadership groups who become kind of the people that help with the prevention. And that's unique to our school. We have a lot of leadership groups. We do a dialogue night, which I really encourage participation, and we've had great turnout for that. And you'll see the dialogue night is kind of about prevention in a really core way, to have a conversation, to continue conversations, but with the community. So this is an overview of some of the things I do. Member of the GADREC team, who's our crisis team. So you get to be part of kind of thinking about kids and crisis and school climate. So I wanted to show you, I guess we're gonna have the light. Can you really see that, or should we turn? Can you still write questions if you? So one of the key parts of prevention, and I'm going to give you some language here to look at, but one of the key parts is school-wide prevention. But without being in the school, it's hard to know for someone outside what that looks like. So a lot of the pictures are just going to help you see what that looks like. This is a recess activity. And he is doing a sign that says, "I support smoke-free cars because," and kids wrote why they support it. And then he has in his hand these sticks, and they're called Leave Us Clean Air sticks, because we have a Leave Us Clean Air group I'll tell you more about, but that's our 5th and 6th grade leadership. So in the school climate, the kids just know that as, oh, of course, it's a Luca day, and they're Luca sticks, and it becomes kind of like a circus fun event. So I wanted you to see what school-wide looks kind of in all the different places. So you'll see more. Red Ribbon Week is a huge thing of 5 days of themes. It's shade out drugs. If you ever see pictures of like the teachers with shades and the whole sign, shade out drugs. We have whole tables in the cafeteria wearing sunglasses. They get a ribbon. So it's this, the whole school is kind of standing behind, being substance free. And you might see on the doors ribbons. So the idea of substance prevention is to have the whole school kind of continually throughout the year have these themes where kids are saying, of course, I back this, I wear the ribbon, I'm in it, I'm wearing the glasses, or I'm wearing opposite day, or whatever it might be, that shows their participation in that. One we've done that's the kids decide in VCAT on the themes, but it becomes really popular. This is spin art. This was another thing the kids decided to do. If you know back from like at least my childhood, you spray paint on spinning. So the thing is, don't let drugs spin me around. On the back of the spin art, before they could do the art, and I have like 7 going, now in my supply room. But before doing it, they had to write what their refusal statement would be. So practicing refusal skills of saying first, what would I say in that tough situation so I can practice it? So they wrote out what they would say. Once they write it, that means they are allowed then to do the spin art. And they really, you can imagine, really enjoy that. This is also, it takes place during lunch. So that's a gigantic cigarette with information at the table of what's inside. What are the 4,000 chemicals within cigarettes? We have lists of that. I think 65 of them are known carcinogens. So getting information out to kids in a non-scary way, but in a way that they can approach the table if they want to, and they can get information. And often there's, a sticker or something that they get in the process. So I also teach classes. So I teach the guidance classes for 7th grade. So that is kind of in addition to other ways of coming in and presenting to classrooms occasionally. And I do that quite a lot as well. Particularly in social issues the kids are really concerned about, and they're very concerned about smoke-free cars, so I'll get back to that. But this is a standard thing that I do every spring. So those are all 7th graders. For a while, when I first did this, some kids were being pulled out, so I would miss some kids who were being pulled up for special classes that meant they missed it. Now I'm really sure to get everybody, but we practice skills and also address these topics in addition to other topics that might come up for them. Every class they get a piece of paper where they can write down their questions anonymously, and they turn in. So every day, every class, I have a list of these amazing questions, partly from TV shows they watch, concern about family, but there is an opportunity every class to address these questions without a name attached, so we can kind of go deeper if there's another topic or another drug that is of concern to them. And the interesting part about these skills is there's not really too much practicing of them. It's really hard to have strong refusal skills and to communicate in that pressured situation where someone is putting some pressure. If you want to be my friend, you'd come with me. Well, that's really hard for even adults to sit in that pressure. So we practice in different scenarios. And by role playing, and the kids really enjoy it. It's a very active class that I really enjoy. Prescription drugs, again. These are some of the terms used. These are the 4 main categories of drugs that we look at. And I want you to see the depressant one, because I'll show you a picture in a moment. I asked them to remember kind of, does it increase or decrease the activity of the central nervous system? And a way that we demonstrate that in the next slide is I have these peacock feathers. I'm kind of known as the feather lady in the school that I kind of have this cart. But peacock feathers are really fun to balance on a finger. It's another circus art. And they can feel, just viscerally, they can feel that balance point in knowing that they're responding through their central nervous system, telling me I have the balance and I'm maintaining the balance. So we kind of call that like balance is beautiful, and do a lot of games of feeling their balance so that they know that actually they're in command when they have balance. When they don't have central nervous system working for them because they've had a depressant in their system, then that will be off. So it's kind of the body learns the lesson in addition to kind of intellectually learning it. So that's that game in the alcohol unit. So peer prevention is something I'm really proud of at WCS. We have the only Luca group in the world. It's a Leave Us Clean Air group. It was named by the students. And the students had said in 5th and 6th grade that they were upset, actually, that VCAT was only for 7th and 8th grade. VCAT is Vermont Kids Against Tobacco. That's another one of the prevention arms. But they said there should be something earlier. Mm-hmm. So we are, in addition, there are some other programs for 5th and 6th grade, but this is a very intensive leadership program. It's a half a year. So every year there are 2 groups of around 15 who come through. So 30 kids in 5th or 6th grade would be trained every year to be kind of activists, to learn public speaking, to learn goal setting. And I am proud of the fact that a lot of those Leave Us Clean Air kids I see now, either in VCAT or in LEAD or in A World of Difference. So I can really see, their activism being sparked in that way. So Leave Us Clean Air deals with mostly the tobacco issues in smoke-free zone. They've been very active in smoke-free zone, and the school is pretty invested and has done a lot of activism with that, of Free My Ride, because 1/3 of the kids are affected by smoke in their environment, whether in their car or a family member's car or any loved one or neighbor that smokes around them. So a lot of our kids are particularly concerned about that. And we've recently, the Luca kids decided to write thank you letters, because I don't know if you're aware of Act 135, but it just passed July 1st, that says you can't smoke in a car with kids who are in a booster seat, which is interpreted as 7 years old or younger. So that is a new law. The year before that law came to place, we did some talking about it, and kids were really invested and wrote letters. Our letters are now at CVS. If you go to CVS in Williston, they have on the counter, instead of having cigarettes, where most stores do, because CVS also stopped selling tobacco products. So we wrote to them, the Luca group, Leave Us Clean Air group, wrote to them. They liked our letters, so they're posted on the front of their counter. So that was followed up by 300 letters to legislators saying thank you. And they've written us back. So I have a letter from the governor on my desk that I need to circulate to the kids and to all the 9 legislators for our area. So these are the Luca sticks, which Luca made, which we play at recess. And go ahead to the next one. It's a balance game, throwing back and forth. They're devil sticks? Yes, those are what we call Luca sticks. And we made them by hand. We made all the parts of that. That is the letter writing. You can see it's an optional choice at recess. Kids who want to do it can. If they don't want to, they can pass it. So those were 5th and 6th graders. These are the 7th and 8th graders. This was an Above the Influence campaign of alcohol, alcohol awareness. And the next one. And this is a table. This student is, is now in 10th grade or something, but it was a 5th grader, and all the kids circle around to hear the information that's being given out. And this is a gathering. You can see a ribbon cutting, because Luca decided we should have signs around the schoolyard, both at and all the entrances, and also in the playground. This is a playground pavilion. So we did a ribbon cutting, and there's Walter, with that new sign that said smoke-free playground. And we also have an 8th grade challenge of a Luca student. These are all former Luca involved kids, but for an 8th grade challenge, someone who was in Luca later decided to get shirts that say, I am a smoke-free zone. And she ordered, she raised money by selling food in the cafeteria, selling food after school, samosas. She sold, $750 or something worth of samosas, and we got T-shirts for anyone who wanted them. Who said they would like a shirt that says "Smoke Free Zone," and she wanted to give them out in her neighborhood, in her apartment complex, because she felt people were smoking around their little kids, and it bothered her. So she had to do all the steps of that, but it's kind of a model of really public policy work being done by young kids, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th graders that get excited about. This is our VCAT group, Vermont Kids Against Tobacco. The name would mean tobacco, but really we do a lot more than just the tobacco. We do get a grant from the Department of Health for Vermont Kids Against Tobacco, but can you go back one, I think? We got, in addition to that VCAT grant, which we get every year, we also got a grant from the Vermont Rural Partnership, and then we can do it, the next one. In addition, it was through the Vermont Department of Health and the Department of Education to do an analysis of the data from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So we'll call that YRBS, but the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, data was done for high school students. They were trained to do that in a day retreat. And I asked if we could go as a middle school, and the leader said yes. So we were the first middle school to participate. And since then, our kids have trained other middle schools to do it. They now have a middle school program to do this data analysis. So I'm going to show you a bit about the data analysis. We've had kids that same year presented in the State House to Governor Douglas, which was very exciting for them. And what we do, we typically have a retreat. This is at Pizza Hut in one of their rooms. We decided that, we can't keep data analysis going for 5 hours straight, so we broke it up with laser tag, and mini golf, and also some pizza. But what the kids do is they develop through the 6 points of their youth risk behavior survey. There's 6 divisions that look at youth and risk, and they decide what are the strengths of our school in that data and what are the concerns. So here you can see them kind of looking and doing a vote. So all the kids come together, we invite other kids, so we have a broad spectrum of kids who are there, and then they present out. So it's all student run. They present out to each other. Here's why I think this is important. They do a vote, and you can see the vote tally starting to happen, and what that leaves us afterwards, the next one. And this I think you're gonna have to click. This is a summary of the strengths found in 2009. And this I thought would be interesting. I know it's not this year. I can get you all the data for our analysis, but what we do is present a student view of the strengths of the school. So this is, again, a total student vote. This is not, done by the leaders or the parents. It's all student run. And they found, students think their parents think it's wrong or very wrong. It was very high percentage. So we can go through. I don't want to spend too much time. I can get you all that data, but this gives us a sense of some of the positives for our school. And then clicking, thank you, Walter, the next one, then concerns, and you can see they're circling here kind of a web, and they learned how to do webbing from one concern, what are the areas that affect that, and then webbing further. And so that's about marijuana use. I don't know if you can see that marijuana use increased, and then they're finding some solutions through the webbing. And the next one, and here's the vote process going on in that Pizza Hut room. And then here are the concerns. So, and when we do dialogue night, that's when we publish this for the community, but we also then bring this to each group of teachers per house. We bring it to the administration, to the GADRAP team that look at the data that kids find to be the biggest concern. So we are concerned that only 58% felt, or the kids are concerned that they matter to their community. I can compare the data to other places, and then this was 10% in 2009, kids that were cutting or wanting to die. So it's a really, pretty difficult topics that they then webbed solutions to, which were the action plans. And hopefully that's coming up. I'm not following on. So we're presenting the results here. I think that's in Voyager. And this is, sometimes it's met by house, sometimes faculty meetings. The teachers talk and to kind of do games of guessing percentages that we thought were most important. That's dialogue night. You can see Jackie Parks, a group of kids, presenting in our 802 t-shirts with VCAT. And this is an example of an action plan. So this is the action plan of Above the Influence, to look at alcohol use and how it affects the body. So kids could stand behind a picture of that. There was also information given Kiva by Kiva, or in Ohana if it's Sterling, where we do a presentation about that, and then we have an activity. So we never have the activity without education. And we also, for every activity and for every Kiva presentation, we also do, we're famous for bathroom posters. So this, for example, I can pass this around, so I don't know if you want to see it, is Be Above the Influence, and it shows what it might be like if you were drinking, what view you'd have of the bathroom. And these were also really important parts that kids came up with that we don't want to tell kids not to use, but then say if they're depressed and they don't have anywhere else to go, we want to remind them that depression can sometimes lead to taking those actions, or anxiety or other mental health issues. So these are student-developed signs of depression, one with a girl and one with a guy, and you're not alone. And if you need to talk to someone, and this was done a few years ago, so talked to, it says the guidance counselors. And so those would be up in bathrooms, rotating bathroom displays. So I'll leave these up here, but that is a lot of how we do kind of these 3 or 4 segments of any campaign. So there's another action. This again was 2009, thinking about those kids who didn't feel like they mattered. So one of the things we did is we had catching kids doing something right. So before we did the PBIS, we had an event where we gave out pins, I think, if someone caught someone doing something positive. So we did a whole campaign, and that helped actually convince the administration to go forward with PBIS. So that's kind of students having an influence. Also, the students talked about the planning room where behavior issues would be resolved, having this big echo. It was kind of like an interrogation room. So we worked with, actually, the art teacher is also, MC Baker is also an architect in her prior career, so she helped plan how to soften the decor and the colors so that echo wouldn't be there anymore, and it wouldn't feel like an interrogation room, or even if you were saying something positive that had happened or being a witness, it felt too intimidating. So a lot of these action plans, some we can carry out to the F3, and some are just kind of, we hope that can happen, because this is by the end of our VCAT year, we're trying to get all of our actions done. Next. So this is kind of that bathroom thing. You can click and have it pop in. Above the influence, posters, and one more. That alcohol is a drug a lot of kids don't know. And we learned that actually in Red Ribbon, we have kids do a fit fact. So when they do the Red Ribbon fun and they get a ribbon, they also do this little quiz where they can earn prizes like Ramontos Pizza, $25 gift certificate. So that lets VCAT know where are kids knowing the facts and where aren't they knowing the facts, and what facts do we have to correct. So every day we have piles, of kids who've done a quick quiz during lunch. You don't have to, no one has to do it, but if they want to participate and get the sticker or whatever it is, they do that. This is another action plan that was last year, Breakfast Anyone, because there was concern, a top concern was that kids were not eating breakfast. I think it's between 11 and 13% of kids have the breakfast that's offered in school, but what we found is kids were not eating breakfast 7 days a week. I can't remember, I think it was 65% eat, but I can't exactly know if that's correct, but there was a percentage of kids that ate every day, but it was not nearly 100%. So we worked with the kitchen to have different things offered. So, and you can go ahead. This is taste tests that were being offered. This is actually for squash for third and fourth grade. And it was prepared 3 different ways, and VCAT was helping with the taste test. So this just tells you we had preferences by Google survey, what would you want for breakfast? This was all developed by the students in VCAT. They interviewed by phone the director of Burlington School District, which is very innovative in providing free food for so many kids of different economic needs. We worked closely with food services, and then the chef Sam created a smoothie with granola. It's a complete meal, that needs to be for their program. An egg burrito with taste tests of over 220 kids in the morning when they come in. It was a big event. Kids come in and they can, if they want to, again by choice, taste a sample of the smoothie. Smoothie was a big hit. It's now on the menu every morning. And now this once a week, because it's too much to make burritos, I think every morning, we have a breakfast burrito with eggs and sausage and hash browns in the burrito. Yes.
Probably
so those
good
are
that's only
examples.
once a week.
What?
It's probably good that's only once a week.
Yes, yeah. So this is examples of action plans. This was another area of concern with an action plan. This really intense conversations about, at that point, the YRBS asked about sexual activity. It didn't for a few years, so I can't show you data over time on that particular issue. It is coming back this year, and the YRBS is 6th through 8th grade, so there are going to be 2 questions about sexual activity that we're doing in this year's YRBS. But we asked that a health unit, the students felt that there wasn't enough information covered about sexuality, and they're particularly interested in what if I'm attracted to someone, but I don't want to be involved with them? How do I work out communicating interest or lack of interest? And that, I think, now is taking action. I think it's another example that now there is more depth covered about sexuality in the FACS program.
Family
the
and Consumer
health.
Science.
Yeah, Family and Consumer Science, the health. There was also concern about marijuana use and inhalant use. At that point in 2009, I'm going to show you data about how those numbers have changed. But there was an interest in having more campaigns, having parents have more information, community awareness raised, and those have all been, those numbers have changed. So those things, I think, have successfully been incorporated because those numbers have gone down. And I will get to that in this section here. So one of the major, other term I want to give you, in middle school, we're hoping for delaying the onset of use, with the idea that the brain is still forming until someone is 24 or 25. Actually, the brain is not fully developed. So that plasticity, the ability of synapses to form and reform and reconnect, continues up until someone is 24 or 25. So if onset of use is delayed, if they do not use in middle school and maybe have a message not to use in high school or until adulthood, then addiction would be much harder to have happen because the brain will already have been formed. If someone starts with a substance early on, their brain will much more quickly, within days compared to kind of years, become addicted possibly to that substance. So delaying onset is a huge goal of prevention in a middle school setting. So I want to show you specifics through this youth risk behavior survey that we can see, given the prevention and the 7th grade classes and the VCAT and the LUCA, that all contribute to percentages. So from 2007, 9.1% ever used marijuana to 2% in 2013. There is, of course, like a percentage error. This doesn't mean, exactly those students, but it does give us a flavor of how things are changing. This is about cigarettes use. So from 11% ever used a cigarette in 2007 to 1%. 2% in 2013. And inhalant use, which is really a middle school issue more than, it wouldn't appear as much in a high school. It's when kids are monkeying around with products that might be in their home that are really a poison if inhaled. So that's the category of poison that I talk about in 7th grade classes, but that's from 12% to 3%. And this is just a graph to show that. And that's in your handouts too, to see that shift. You can see inhalant kind of went up, and then as we addressed it, it went down. Yeah. So this is with alcohol. Those who ever drank alcohol other than a few sips, knowing that maybe for religious reasons or for other reasons someone told them you have to have a sip. This is other than a few sips, from 34.5% to 9%. There's still room to work on that, but this is, and the next one, in the past 30 days, 15.5 to 4%. And this is the graph of that. And tobacco changes in perception. So another really big issue is if kids all think that everyone does this, everyone smokes, then that is a very poor indicator of how kids will make a decision. If there's perception that everyone does it, that it's cool, or it's that it's kind of a rite of passage or some kind of norm that they have to go through. So changing that norm or changing those perceptions are really important with prevention. So this is more, you can read them, but the numbers in this case would go up to show more changes in perception. More kids think it's wrong or very wrong. So this is for alcohol, and the next one I think is marijuana. Again, change in perception is going up to think it's wrong or very wrong, and then the graph. of that. So they're already high percentages, but they're going up even higher that kids see. And alcohol particularly, I think, is shown more change, that more kids thought that was okay. It's in a lot of movies. It's hard to know where do I stand with this? Adults do it. And is that okay for me? So we're through all of these kind of prevention events, hopefully are changing those senses. Okay. These are areas that I do students do assessments. I go kiva by kiva, do an update, introduce myself again, and then people do a confidential assessment of themselves that only I see. That and this is out of a given 100, so in a house that has 100, 53 in that representative house will say, said they wanted to see or talk to me about something. 35 are exposed to secondhand smoke. So this is kind of where the needs are. What I have to tell you honestly is I can't get to all 53 of them, probably. And 9 want more information to try to get to everyone that I can. And next one, 24 want help making healthier choices, 14 want to be in leadership groups, there's some overlap, and then 4 say, and this is where I start, want to see me immediately. So that's where I start, and then I back up, hopefully getting to everyone in every house, but that's 500 students. So I do my best to kind of get a sense of triaging, like which is most important in getting to students who want to talk about possibly information or want help to get their parent to quit. My parent might be interested in quitting. They might be exposed and not know how to say to a parent, please stop smoking in the house. Okay, and there are 3 other preventions. So I'm done with my part, but I wanted to tell you I've gathered other prevention activities that go on at our school. This is in the handout in a full form so you can see it really in a detailed way. This is for mentoring, the CY mentoring program. I think some of you are aware of that, but if you can go to the next one, I just kind of detailed that out. 56 mentoring pairs, which is outstanding. It's a really huge program. There is a diversity. There's not one type. It's not typecast as a certain type of kid. It's has clear boundaries and support. It's so exciting for kids to be chosen to do mentoring. It has total trust and continuity. Those kids want to come back. The mentors come back. It leads to a sense of kind of like a family that's been built, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, the data is really clear of the difference that makes in those kids' lives. So I'll let you read that. And this is quotes from that. So they're in your handout. And yes, and this is a program called Act 1 that the 2 school counselors are doing with 5th through 8th grade. Each student, once they have a program, go back to that for a second, thank you. It's called Safety. It's a curriculum in collaboration with Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. And so they address that in the related arts rotation, which is great. It means that every student will get that. It won't be a fight to get that time, as there's so many competing needs. So looking at healthy relationships, forms of communication, consent, and defining sexual abuse, sexual harassment, emotional and physical abuse. So that's really strong program. We also have here the family and consumer health / science. So there are a number of classes taught. This is a human sexuality for 7th and 8th grade. It's done every 2 years, so either student will have it in 7th or in 8th grade. And then it will rotate with another curriculum, but every student in 7th and 8th would have this. So that's a 6-part class. And again, 7th and 8th grade also has nutrition unit, a stress management unit in depth, and a substance use prevention. And we work together. Sometimes she has me as a guest speaker, and there's some overlap with the 7th grade program, which I think is only a strength if there's a bit of overlap to deepen that discussion. And this is for 3rd and 4th grade health. And they go in depth about tobacco, alcohol, prescription medications. So that's a really great program also that can start in 3rd and 4th grade. That's it. How did I do with time?
You did.
Good. Okay, good.
Great. Exactly.
Yes. Great. So this is time for questions. If you have, and I also have these that I can pass around if you want to see. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Oh, good.
So let's just start with the last slide that you said, 34th grade held. So that happens right now for everyone.
Yes.
And
It's, again, I think a rotation, so it would be every 2 years. So either students will get it in 3rd or in 4th grade.
okay, that's great. That's
Yeah.
really good. Then on the survey, so is it annual?
It is every other year.
So biannual.
Yes.
All right. And then who develops it? Is it the kids develop the questions or?
It's a national,
Oh, sorry, I missed
it's a
that.
national test, and that's a great question. And Vermont does participate with a high level of participation in that. It is completely confidential, no names, no personal information, circling, answering 61 questions that students don't even give to their teacher, they just put in an envelope. They don't ever give that back. Teachers can't answer questions or discuss anything. And then it's sent out and they give us very specific data. For 6th grade, this is how many used, how many male and female. Comparing that 6th grade use to Vermont, we can then compare it to CSSU. So we have very specific data for our school that we then can really extrapolate.
Well, that kind of leads to my next
Yeah.
question. So who participates? So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade? Or
6th,
just
7th, and 8th grade.
everybody?
6th, 7th, and 8th grade, unless a parent wants it to have their student not participate, have their child not. And so there is a letter that will go out actually like next week to say if you do not want to have your child participate, let us know. And they would be in the room at the same time, so it's not clear like, oh, the data doesn't include them, but they just read a book or
Huh.
do other work.
Very interesting. And so the results are presented where and to whom?
The results are not published online. The results are circulated to the school. You can see them as a school board, and they are published at dialogue night. You could say that everyone is able to come and see that data presented. It is published for CSSU for the middle school survey. There's also a high school survey. That information is also online, but each middle school is not released unless they choose to.
Got it. So,
it is.
and then the dialogue night. So the
Yes.
dialogue night, is it with parents and students or just students or?
Parents and students and some faculty, but mostly parents and students and community members. We've often had community members who have an investment in what goes on, who come, that might not have kids in the community. And dialogue night happens by having people sit at a round table with parents sitting separately from their child in order to allow that freer dialogue to happen.
Very nice.
So it's each table has this representation of some parents, some kids. We have a lead and a world of difference help to facilitate, but the data is been analyzed and the program is led by the Vermont Kids Against Tobacco.
Great. One last question.
Sure.
So the VCAT, so the eligibility. 'Cause
Yes.
what I hear is that it's an honor really to be a part of that group. And you said there's maybe 30 kids.
Well, Luca, the Leave Us Clean Air, also is by nomination, and VCAT is by nomination, and we allow typically 4 from each house. So it becomes around 16 students in each group. And then those students have to get clearance that their teachers nominate them and that they can handle missing core. And Luca, though, is during lunch and recess, so we want to know that that makes sense for the student also to miss recess, that it's someone who doesn't really, will be okay with not doing recess that week. So it's with their approval and then also with parent approval. But they do have to be nominated.
Got it.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
I cannot say enough. I had none of this when I was growing up, and in so many ways I wish I did.
Mhm.
Great job. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Well, I have a question for you. If you would like, given that you go to many meetings and it might not be able to be a dialogue night, and I think often it's held actually the night of a school board meeting, would you like the summary? We have this summary page of the top strengths and the top
I
concerns.
would love to see it.
Okay, because I can just digitally, I can send that to you.
Thank
Because I
you.
think it might be of interest and to see what action plans had been developed. And it was too much data to put in this, because it could be a whole night itself for one of those, but I'll send that to you.
Thank
So what
you.
do you use as a measure to say how we're doing, like, compared to everybody else or whatever? Is there a measure of some sort?
Well, in each, and I could also send you the whole survey. It's just a many-page document. So when we get that youth risk behavior survey, we will see our school, and then a column next to it of the state of Vermont. So that's already a point
Statewide,
of
yeah.
comparison. It also, this is about the parents whose parents think it's wrong or very wrong to have them smoke. We can see the data for Williston, 98, and then right across I can see for Vermont, and then it's broken down 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, broken down male and female, and then total percentage. So it's very helpful data. It's so specific that it really then is a starting point to start looking at policy and issues. And the students are really excited by the data, which is great to see.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Sarah.
Okay, I'm going to back this up a little bit. So we started the meeting at 7:05, and we have 2 adjustments. We're going to add 7.2, and that is to have me continue on the support staff negotiations. And then the other, we need to add an executive session to discuss superintendent evaluation. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, go ahead, Walter.
Okay, so just one thing, you saw, I mean, 2 pretty amazing programs tonight, really
Yes,
presented.
yeah.
This one
Victories.
and
Yeah.
what Sarah does is incredible. And we were trying to go through everything and make sure that's why we're trying to go fast. I said, Sarah, you have a lot of great things to present. You know, we've got about 20 minutes to half an hour, you know, and we really want to show everything that you do. And so I think you saw that. And then you saw the early intervention program and what we are doing, because we've always said it's early intervention that makes the difference. And we have a person dedicated to do that. And I think you could probably realize from her presentation that it's an amazing job that she is doing, and it has so many different components of intersecting with other groups with families and other groups that provide services, and helping to increase the quality of the services provided. I mean, it's a pretty complex program, and we're the only one that has that.
I do want to observe that the presentation was very impressive, and it looks like what Ms. Francis is doing is really great work. But there was a piece of data in that report that was a little disconcerting, which is the relatively low participation of Williston pre-K students in the Act 166 program, if you will, or Act 62. And so it does raise a question of efficacy,
Right.
Despite all this good work. If we're not generating numbers.
Do you remember where her number started, though? She started, was in the 20s. And so she's more than doubled that. But the other thing that she does, just so you know, because it doesn't show in that, is she has located almost 90% of where our kids are, because they're not all going to preschool in Williston.
Right.
You know, a lot of them are being dropped off at a preschool where they work.
Closer to where they were.
And so what she's had to do is go back through and track the families and figure out. Shelburne, on the other hand, has like 2 major preschools right in the community, and 75% of them go to one of them, which is like a kind of like in a building where it used to be an athletic club, and it's a huge preschool, so it's easier for them to locate it. You know what I mean? So one of her jobs was to find out, where are these kids then? And so that's what she's been working on. And it does look low now, but actually, if you saw other numbers that she didn't show, she really has located, and that's been her first job, is locate, where are these kids then? And what kind of preschool experience are they getting? Is it a high quality experience? Is it 2 or 3 students in a house? Is it, I think the athletic club in town does a big preschool with about 90 kids in it, so it's like, where are they? And so that's what she's been doing. And then the other part is to build a partnership so that they can be certified by the state, and which raises the quality, just to be able to get certified. So I agree, it was a low number, and that's one of the reasons why we said we've got to start finding these kids. We can't find out where they are. We have 20-something preschools. She said 22 separate preschools within the community. So where are all our kids at? A lot of them are in South Burlington. So that's kind of that is the job she's been doing, is trying to search it out.
Sure.
And the other part is just that there, as I think the chair of the board said, a lot of these families do not feel comfortable coming to school and so forth. So she's been out in their homes and reaching out to them and ushering them in so that they feel more comfortable, with her as their guide and explaining what's going on. And the other part is making sure they can access all the resources that they should get, and just don't necessarily how to go through the system. And so she works on that too. So, I mean, we do need to improve, no question about it, but I think we really are on the right road. And I think for our kids that are not even in school yet, it's a great program that's really expanding all the time just through her hard work. So,
Well, it was great to see that
but it is a good program, really.
that the events are well attended, the nights.
Yes, very well attended.
That's amazing, 'cause
And
that is-
the other thing is, she's a type of person where people will talk to her, will open up, will listen to what she has to say. You can tell just by her presentation. She's not threatening, she's not lecturing. She has a very nice, calm way about her, which really allows her to go a long ways. So I was proud of the program because it started not that many years ago, and it was the board that I think that you saw the wisdom really of doing that, because it is helping our students be better prepared when they get to the schoolhouse door, and really having some of those experiences, especially language development, before they ever get here, to making sure they're having a rich experience. So anyway, the principal's report, I think the only thing I wanted to add to that is I gave you a copy. We've been working on the presentation for town meeting day, plus tomorrow night, Deb and I are on TV, and so you have this. For the first time, we have put it in color, and we have it with our students in it. We've never done that before, and we know that their smiling faces really sell a lot of budgets. And the good thing is and we have, the one thing is their excitement, and pretty much every one of the pictures, you can tell the kids are really happy and they're having a good time. And we think that the way it's presented really looks good. I mean, on paper, you can see that we've done a good job of being fiscally responsible and yet having great programs for kids. So if you have any suggestions or anything, you can always email us. Deb and I will be on TV tomorrow night at 5:25 to 5:55, and we'll meet a little bit early just to divide up the slides.
Thank you for doing that, too.
Yes.
Can we call in with questions?
Sure. We've never had a call-in question,
We want
have we?
fixed
Just
questions.
kind of, like,
Yeah.
they can,
Correct.
wow, so really, it's only 0.38?
How
That's
can
a
you
really-
do that?
How do you do that? Other places I've been.
What an
Yeah, there
amazing
you
school
go.
board and
Well,
administration.
it's funny is that that Burlington used to always say, "How can you do that? Our budget is going up 10% because the fellow who's doing it with us is facilitating this actually in Burlington." He said, "Why do you do that?"
Yeah.
So
Well, this year
All
we
right.
did it.
okay,
That's it for principal? Okay. Next is CSSU debrief. Let's see, we had an insurance presentation about the different components of the insurance and our liability numbers, figures, right?
Yeah, and there was some question about accounting practices, best practices to prevent fraud. I think that
Mhm.
issue will probably be presented upon at our retreat.
So that you understand how the checks and balances are for the supervisory union.
It's always good.
It is always good. And we voted not unanimously, almost unanimously, to roll
Right,
in the
almost.
special ed paras
Right.
to the CSSU. The CSSU is now the official employer of the special ed paras, as opposed to the non-special ed paras, which we still are the employer.
that's great.
And Molly also talked a little bit about the SBAC and kneecap and the
Mm.
differences, and that's all in our packet. And
Yeah.
articles will be coming out, one from Rebecca Holberg and then Molly too.
Yep.
To kind of get that out to parents, because they don't expect the scores to be nearly what we would expect,
Right.
because they're very different. So that'll be a big communication piece.
When
For
is the
parents.
first SBAC is coming up, right? In April, I
Yeah,
think?
March,
March?
or April?
Coming soon.
Coming
It's
soon.
soon.
Yes,
So
it's
is
in
it-
spring.
So the numbers are gonna be, different numbers, like instead of the
Yeah,
40
it's in our
gonna
packet.
be-
It talks about how it's broken down, and they've figured out what a 4 would be. And the
Okay.
4 is like you're going to college.
Okay, yeah, so,
grad.
totally changed. the
And it
numbers.
was a low number. We talked about that. It was 11%. And somebody at the CSSU said, that seems like a really low number.
That they
they're
expect
just
they're
not
gonna be
sure.
getting 4s or whatever,
With the
Right.
caveat that no one really knows.
That we
Yes,
don't, that we
yeah.
don't know.
yeah,
Right.
but you won't be used to that 100% scale, it's like a 4% scale, or 4 number scale,
Right.
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
yeah.
We don't know, I think, right?
All right,
I think that was it.
new
right,
road,
okay.
new journey.
All right.
A new
Um,
journey.
Financial management report?
I think it's in here, I mean,
Any questions?
I say it's in your packet.
Yeah, it's in,
it's
right.
improving. I think we still have a lot of challenges with, especially with this cold weather in the building and things like that. We've had frozen pipes and,
Yeah.
all kinds of things, but at least it's the deficit is shrinking.
If I read it correctly, it's not an issue of expenditures. Our expenditures are actually down for the year, but our revenue side is off. And so that was my question, is what is the source of the revenue that didn't come through?
Well, as an example, I think we covered this in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Your IDA revenue in special ed used to come to Williston to offset the cost of wages and benefits for some of your special educators. That is now kept at the SU, and it lowers the cost of your special educators, so you're receiving a net assessment total less the IDA revenue, so a net assessment for the special educators from the SU to Williston.
But wouldn't that just wash out at the end of the day?
You'll see a lower expenditure, you'll
Right.
see a lower revenue, so net, yes,
So the lower expenditures also reflects that shift.
correct.
All right, so assuming that that all washes out, right, because you're just shifting revenue to one place and expenditures, is it the building repairs that's driving the deficit?
Your operation maintenance, if you look at
Yeah.
your financial management report, if I can focus here, we're looking at overexpending by $186,000.
Okay. And so where are we coming up with the extra cash to do that?
Right now,
Yeah.
we're only fixing the things we absolutely have to fix. We're just freezing everything else. We won't fix it in this fiscal year.
Okay.
But, some of the things that have
We have
happened
to.
is we have a pumping station for wastewater right outside of the school. It stopped working. And so we had to get that fixed, and we had to, call in specialists to look at the pumping system, find out what, fix burnt out pumps, and then rewire it, because even with the new pumps, it wouldn't work. And so it had some wiring difficulty just through the burning out of the motors, and so that was an expense. Not as bad as it could have been, but it was an expense. It's things like that, and I think, I'm sure snow plowing with all the things that are going on right now, and hopefully that's not gonna be a problem, because we're contracted. It should be okay, but there's a lot of things right now with the cold weather that push the school. It's gonna be, all of our utilities will probably be up, just because we're heating the building and we're burning. We had to switch over to oil this weekend because gas, we have an agreement with the gas company, and when it gets this cold, they don't have enough supply in this area, so we have dual boilers, so they asked us to switch over to oil for the weekend.
No, that's not a bad thing this year.
At this point, right?
Correct,
Right,
correct.
right.
Right, that's a good thing this year, but in other years it was terrible. This year, but it's kinds of things like that just, we know we're pushing right now, and it's gonna be cold for at least another probably 2 weeks.
Right, it's higher.
And so we are burning more fuel, just in general. And that's all under operation and maintenance. All of that is operation and maintenance.
And so, to the extent we do have an end-of-the-year deficit, that will come from our fund balance?
That is correct.
Okay. And are there new projections on what, I know we talked about the fund balance at our last board meeting because we needed to make a decision about how much
Right.
we were going to leave in there. Are there new projections on what our fund balance is going to be in light of this report?
On this report, back in September, we projected we would need to take 69,000 from the fund balance, well, the ending fund balance from last year, beginning for this year.
Right.
Now we've reduced that estimate to 53,000.
Oh.
So you've gotten a little better.
That's
Okay.
why I said we got a little better in this last quarter.
Okay.
And
So-
Walter's working his best to keep expenses in control and try to put off what he can for this year.
Anything we can put off now, we said we're just not gonna fix it until we can get into the new budget year. And we know that the new budget has more money in it,
Right.
which will help us for sure. To pick up any extra expenses, it's 88,000 stronger than the current budget.
Okay.
So we're just trying to, just saying, we're not gonna fix it. Unless it's an emergency situation or it deals with, the structure, protecting the building, we'll wait.
I'm amazed that the buses haven't had issues.
I am too.
Every morning, like these cold mornings.
They put an additive in the gas and they're plugged
Okay.
in.
They're plugged in.
I used to be a motor pool sergeant though, and we had diesel trucks. And I have to tell you, in the wintertime, I hope we never got attacked. They would never start. You can't have a truck with a diesel engine and it sit for a month and not touch it and then think it's gonna start up automatically. It
Right.
took us forever to get them started. So, but the buses are plugged in. They put a lot of additives in the fuel to keep it so it doesn't freeze up. And so far, we've been really lucky. Knock on.
Keeping it clear of snow, right?
Pardon?
Keeping the buildings clear of snow.
Yes. And they're doing a good job of keeping
Yeah.
it clear.
Okay. Program council. Anything for that?
I think we really haven't had a meeting since the last one. The next meeting, though, I think will be interesting because we are going to do something called the State of the School. And we're going to, we've been looking at what areas should we look at for improvement, in other words, general areas. And we're going to have a meeting that concentrates on those areas this spring with the program council weighing in and talking about what are different kinds of solutions. And then this will start the preparation for the budget next year. So that when you start looking at it, you're going to kind of know some of the focus areas right off. To say, we need to look at this. One of the things I think you asked for, and which really drove some of this, is you asked to say, can we see some numbers around the math position? Remember that? So what we're doing is we're breaking everything down by numbers. What's our capacity in this area? How many kids are eligible? We've got a gap here. What does that mean for a solution? So we're looking at, I think, 3 different parts of the programs to say, let's do that kind of gap analysis and figure out what we're going to do and what could a solution be. It doesn't have to be add money, but it could be, how do we address this? Can we move resources? Can we do something different?
I think that's great, and especially, when you see that trend line that was in this
Right.
report about where our student population's going to be, I think having that analysis done will be really helpful when
Yeah.
we figure out staffing allocations in the years to come.
And I think staffing allocation, well, I can't say, I'm not going to be here, but what we have done is we've always looked at class size immediately, looked at the state standards and class size and moved it immediately. And if we can, if we can reduce, we simply reduce.
Right.
And the good news about Williston is it's big enough where you have enough retirements usually that it's not ripping somebody. It just means we're not going to fill it. And I think we've been looking pretty carefully at the positions we have right now, and we've been able to at least reduce one in full-time equivalent a little bit because we looked at, okay, it's less sections, so we can cut this back before we hire.
It would be helpful if you could nail that down before town meeting, because I think that might be a helpful factoid to present. Are you suggesting that this
No.
budget year versus last budget year, we're down in FTE?
No, I'm saying, well, right now, we know that we're not right now. This is for next year, and we don't have the population projections for next year yet. And usually we look at those. If we look at this year's budget, just population projections, we know that kindergarten is going up. And the way we're going to fill that position is move a 1-2 teacher down.
Mhm.
It's that kind of thing, rather than saying we're gonna add, no, we're gonna look at the class size across the system, and if we can shift people around, we will. So, for town meeting, we won't have, I mean, we're doing some of that for this, in this next year's budget anyway.
So I guess I didn't follow your comment then about the 1 FTE reduction. When is that anticipated?
In other words, if next year, if we, not now, as we look into the fall and you look at your population projections that come out for students,
Mhm.
that's the first thing we look at, because that, and then we look at the class sizes, done a couple of different ways to say, okay, is there anything here that says that we could reduce 1 FTE and still have a reasonable class size?
Okay, it was a hypothetical.
Yes,
I
yes.
thought you had made a declaration.
The other thing we have, just so you know, we have a spreadsheet that puts every other resource associated with houses in grade levels, and so that we can compare that across the board. And we can look at all the ratios immediately and say, wait a minute, this ratio is off, so we're gonna look to reduce in this area.
That's great.
So that's all behind the scenes we're doing all the time.
Thank you.
All right, FAPAC.
FAPAC, let's see, I think I can share just a couple of big things. So the Big Basket Raffle is well underway. You
Nice.
most likely already got, those of us who have kids still in the school, the flyers of what we're supposed to contribute with. So a lot of work being done there. The Williston, what is it called? Williston Wins
Yep.
campaign is not doing very well. Participation is very low, and so they're trying to reassess, A, if things can be done differently to increase penetration, I guess, or participation is the right word, or B, should we be rethinking that campaign? And then what would that mean in terms of fundraising changes across the board? So I think those are the two main things that you're looking into. That's it.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, discussion matters, budget informational meeting preparation. So we're set for that.
I think this is,
Yeah.
this is the town meeting, and this is
Yeah.
this is what will be
Presenting.
presented. We will send it out, we'll give Kevin a copy also, so he can look at it. He likes to actually do the TV program because it's practice,
Mhm.
you know, so he was kind of disappointed he was away because it's his first trial run. But he can watch it on TV.
That's
All
right.
right.
But you have it now. This is what it looks like. I think, there's a couple things that jump out at me is, we have a 0.5 increase in per pupil cost, and the cost of living is 1.6, by government standards, and that's pretty conservative.
And we came out the lowest.
Yes.
We did, and we are now the lowest again,
Yeah. Nice.
so
Nice job.
Not that we're competitive.
we are competitive. We want the best education for the most reasonable cost.
Right.
And always have. So I think this really is the preparation, and Kevin will be presenting, and I can work with him on anything he may need beforehand.
And do we know if we're going first or second?
Remember that.
On,
I'll have to
on
ask the
duty?
town.
Do we flip historically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we're going first, because I
Are we
remember,
going
I
first?
remember vividly going second
Going
last
second?
year.
So we're going
So it's
first.
7, do we think? 7?
And it's
That's
up-
good news.
It's up
Yes.
0.38%,
Oh, you're right, it was
which is
long.
pretty reasonable.
Okay, great. All right, and Board's Corner, Josh did a great article that's going in this week into the Observer.
Thank you, everyone, for your
Yeah.
editorial help.
Excellent.
And the flyer will be in this week, too.
And the
That's
flyer.
great.
Very nice flyer, too.
Okay. Let's see, willingness to accept recreational boundary.
So
that's what-
this was supposed to be in your packet, so all I'm going to
Yeah,
do
I
is
did.
give it to you tonight.
Okay.
And we'll put it on the board meeting for next time.
For
And
March.
what they're asking is, briefly, it says they're applying for a grant. One of the requirements is creating a 6F3 boundary around the property. This is to ensure that the area inside the boundary will never be opened and dedicated, it will be forever be open and dedicated to recreational, outdoor recreation, and they want the school board to sign off on it, to say that we support it, because it's school property. And so this is what it looks like, and as I said, I think you should have time in advance to read it.
This was in the Observer, by the way.
Yeah.
The plans for expansion.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw the plan.
So it shows the boundaries, in the paragraphs, if you just read it, you'll understand a little bit about what it looks like, and then,
Walter, can you send us a PDF of this? Just,
Sure.
we're probably in need of bifocals and.
yes.
Yeah, it's pretty tiny.
You're not
Okay.
the only one, we need more arm.
No, I can, and I think, really, I think what Bob Mason would say is the first question for the board is, do you want to hire somebody to really look at it to make sure that we understand what is the implications for the school board? That would be the first step before anything else, and I think the first thing is just look it over, and then we can come back with questions and for the next time, and I think that's probably what will be asked of the board is, would you like to have somebody really look at this, looking at your, protecting your rights?
Is this a federal grant? What kind of grant are we applying for?
It's called the
LWCF
Grant Land and Water Conservation Fund with the state and federal government.
So the school district is applying, or is the town applying?
Town.
And how much money is at stake here?
I don't think it's money. I think it's, it freezes, if you look at this, it says basically that the board is saying that this is your property. You will never develop this. It's frozen.
But what are we getting in exchange for that declaration?
You get, well, they're developing the whole park right around the school, so for
Yeah.
the kids, it'll be great. You can go out and play, that's what it is. It's more of a town rec thing than what the school would probably get, what would be the direct benefits.
Right, whether the school would use it for other use.
But, I mean, it's tennis courts and basketball courts and all those kinds of things.
No, I mean, generally, I support land preservation issues, but I guess I'm just trying to understand, if it is already our property,
It is.
and there's no economic incentive here to declare these boundaries off limits, so to speak, to development, aren't we tying our hands to future boards about what might be legitimate uses to school property?
Yeah, I think that's
That's the
really the
question.
big question.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do you want to do that?
Okay.
That's a
And what do you
large
need to make that
swath of
decision?
land
Yeah.
Where you could put more school or consolidate, if we ever wanted to consolidate in this area.
Right.
Right, and now if a conservation fund was gonna pay us $1 million to do that, and
It
that we
doesn't-
could put that in
Yeah.
a trust for the
Right.
preservation of the athletic fields,
And I didn't see any exchange of funds mentioned in here,
No.
just that we'd like you to support this, and would the board support it? That was about it.
So, but the
Okay.
town cannot develop unless they get an approval from the board, is that what I understand?
Well, no, they can't get this grant to do it. There might be other, they can't get this grant in particular, because that's a stipulation of this grant.
but
But
what
there's
is,
gotta be
But
some.
it's school property.
So the grant, I mean, usually a grant implies some type of monetary,
It's the funds to develop it, but the question really is,
some monetary allocation of some sort.
right, that,
I haven't seen anything about that. This is all we have. This is literally the whole thing.
so I guess if we could ask the administration to come back and give us some more information about what this grant is.
And our new person in charge of recreation, Todd Goodwin, said he would come and present to the board if you'd like.
And it may not need a presentation, it just may need a memo,
More information.
clarification, yeah.
but
Okay.
it seems to me there's,
Yeah. Questions?
yes, or lack of information.
Yeah.
And if your question is, what is it for the board? What is in it for the boards?
Well,
What is in it for
For
our
the
school
community.
district, for our
Yeah.
community?
Yeah,
No, in other words, we're locking down a certain amount of land forever, literally,
Right,
Right.
and what does the school district get back in return?
exactly.
but I guess for me, and I'm sorry if I'm being slow, is, it's school property, right?
Right.
So the town cannot develop it unless we approve it, is that right?
Right. Yeah, they can't build on it or do
no, they
anything.
can't.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is it looks like they're applying for some type of a grant that's gonna help support them to do what they wanna do monetarily,
Mhm.
most likely. But they want us to say that we're never gonna do anything in here except recreation. I mean, and, you know, it comes pretty close to the school if that's the actual line, so even
Right.
if you were to have a little bit of expansion, it seems like it would be a bit, inhibiting that.
This is to ensure that the area inside the boundary will forever be open and dedicated to outdoor recreation.
Right.
So, once it's there, it can never be used again.
Hmm.
I think that's asking a lot of us.
But
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
but there may be good economic incentive to do that, and there may be
There may
sufficient
be-
opportunities
there may be.
for expansion.
Yeah.
We just don't have.
And maybe if we got legal counsel that said, well, you know, just like anything else, you can sign it now and we can get out of it. You know, I'd be more supportive of that.
So we need more
Okay,
information.
more information.
More
for the next
information.
meeting.
More
We'll
information.
bring it to the, we'll put it back on the agenda.
For
We'll bring
March.
as much information as we can about what they're gonna pay for it.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, action matters. We need a motion to reaffirm the retreat date, Monday, June 1st.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then we need a motion to appoint myself to continue on support staff negotiation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
And
great.
thank you.
Thank you
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
Thank you, thank you.
Maybe they'll get it done because
for you.
it has to go fast.
It'll be the incentive.
Okay, let's go
Monday,
on,
June
let's, yeah, go on to consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I do with, yes, but I would like to make a comment.
Okay,
So it would be really helpful, I know that there's really minor policy changes to professional development, but I really would love to see red line edits so I understand precisely what language has been changed. If that could be brought back to,
Is that in any policy in general, or just?
yeah,
that
any
one?
policy change that they're asking for us to approve, I'd like to see the red line change.
So you know what exactly.
and usually we get those. I'm not sure why we didn't.
Yeah.
We have a meeting
You're on
this
policy.
week, yeah, I'll
that
bring
back.
that up, yeah, because we have been doing some big swaths of changes that, yeah, if you want it, you can get it.
It's just what it helps me focus on.
I agree.
On the review
Yeah.
efficiently.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, 9.0, next meeting dates.
Wait a minute,
Oh, I think we
I'm
have to
sorry.
vote.
There was a motion, I didn't hear the second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was
I'm
the
trying to take
same
notes
for
for
both,
Sandy.
right?
I know.
Okay.
Thank you.
You get a vote?
And did you vote?
Yes,
Okay,
did.
Okay.
Aye.
Unanimous, right? Unanimous.
Yeah.
okay, with the,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks,
caught
Mike,
up now.
for doing that. Okay, next meeting, March 17th.
Mhm.
And then, I guess at board's chair, they'll decide if it's 5 or 5:30, because it will be the reorganization of the new
Oh.
board.
Okay.
So look for that time. Everything else is fine, right? Board
Great.
chair. Okay. So
Thank
we
you
need-
very much, Deb, for
Thank
all
you.
you've done all these
Thanks.
years.
Yes.
You will be missed.
I'll miss it, but
You
it'll
can
also
always
be
come
nice
back.
to have some time.
How many years have you done this?
9, yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so we need a motion for executive session.
So
So
moved.
I don't stay for that, right?
No.
You stay.
No, I-
Thank you,
I-
Walter.
Okay, thank you,
I-
Walter. All right,
Yeah, thank you, Walter.
we're done. Thank you.
Good luck tomorrow.